I'd like to talk today about the enormous problem we have in Washington with an out-of-control budget. It seems to me that most people in America don't fully understand the severity of this issue that we face. So I'd like to explain it a little bit today. Our federal budget works like this. We currently spend about $3.8 trillion on many budget items, from the military to social programs. Through taxation, we collect right now about $2.2 trillion. So if you're quick with math, that makes a gap of $1.6 trillion, which represents our current deficit. So our government needs to borrow money in order to fund its obligations and its expenditures just to get through the year. Now, our government goes about borrowing in many different ways that most Americans as individuals cannot do themselves. One source of borrowed money comes from the Social Security Trust Fund. Basically, when people pay their Social Security tax, it goes to a trust fund that's operated by the U.S. Treasury. When more money goes into that trust fund than comes out of it, in other words, paying for the current obligations, people receiving their Social Security checks, there's a surplus created. That surplus then is used to buy government securities. Therefore, it creates a trust fund full of IOUs. Another form of borrowing money comes from selling government securities in the open market. Now, this is open to many domestic and foreign buyers, and the Chinese and the Japanese, most notably, are the ones that participate in this. Our government also finances debt in what I consider the most destructive way. It borrows money from the Federal Reserve Bank by selling them their securities. In order for interest rates on our government securities to be low, our government needs many active buyers. And this becomes very problematic once we start racking up more debt. So the Federal Reserve lends the government money by buying those securities. The reason this is problematic is the Federal Reserve is the one that controls our monetary system, or our currency. So when you hear people refer to the Fed as printing money, this is what they're talking about. The sophisticated terminology is quantitative easing. Since no new wealth here is created in our economy to supplement the loaning of these funds, we essentially inflate our monetary base. And this is what eventually leads to higher prices. But let's leave this discussion for now. We'll talk about it many times in the future. The point I want to make here is that our government lacks the ability to balance its budget, and we face a tremendous problem. All of our methods to borrow money that I mentioned here create serious issues for us in the long run. We cannot afford to go down this path. Freedom in Economics predicts the overall collapse of our financial system basically due to this one issue. Our problem extends far beyond the budgetary issues that we face today. Programs like Social Security and Medicare are going to cost us way more than we can ever afford. But the problem with our political system is that it seems that no one is able to fix our debt problem. Politicians on both sides are afraid to make the cuts today that are necessary for our future prosperity. Look at the recent attempt by the House Republicans to cut $61 trillion from the rest of the fiscal year budget. That cut represents only 3.5% of what's expected to be our deficit this year. And even that is too much for the Senate Democrats and the President. To put this in perspective, if the quote-unquote financially responsible party, which is the GOP, gets its way, we still add $1.5 trillion to our national debt. These politicians have absolutely no chance of balancing our budget. As soon as a politician mentions cutting these programs like Social Security, Medicare, the ones that are really creating this problem for us, they're slaughtered in the media and public debate because they supposedly want to take away the benefits of the senior citizens, which of course will not be there if we don't fix this problem right now. You at home need to understand this issue and make the right choices. In order for our financial system to be restored to solvency, you need to get behind a candidate that understands sound money principles. With your own money, I continue suggesting to put your money in gold and silver, at least converting what you would have in just cash accounts. Basically, your money going into bank accounts that earn low interest rates does you really no good. Now, with your investments, I think your international exposure needs to go to those countries that are producing and not racking up large amounts of debt. I would use a well-managed mutual fund that has resources to research and actually go knock on the doors of some of these companies in those countries. Well, that's all I want to cover today. We'll talk about this issue many times in the future. Remember, let your voice be heard and celebrate your liberties always.